Hello, 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 beautiful unicorns. Yana Kasperczak, your certified professional performance and spiritual awakening core energy coach, is back for another live video on weekly live Get Your Shit Together weekly live guidance that I do every Thursday. And it has been my soul's purpose to help women, to help you break free from that mental prison that you find yourself in and build a life and a business and or a career that you're not only proud of, but excited and inspired to wake up to every single day. My soul's purpose is to help you have fun in life, to love your life as you once did. But something went awry, something some switch went on or off, and you found yourself lost and confused in the middle of this forest called life, and started perhaps looking at your life and recognizing and seeing it and questioning, how did I get here? Who am I? Why am I here? I don't feel like I belong. I feel like this is all wrong. It's almost like you one day woke up and you realized that you're in a way living somebody else's life, that a lot of things in your life don't feel right and they don't feel like they're yours. And to be quite honest, most of them aren't. If not all of those things that you're questioning, they're not yours. They are the creation and the manifestation of other people, but through you, where you took on somebody else's fears, worries, concerns, beliefs, and you took them on as yours, and they became yours. And the crazy part is that when that happened, you weren't even fully aware that you were doing that. And so today, the topic that I wanted to bring to each and every one of you is, I compiled a few things through my coaching journey and working with women from various backgrounds, various lifestyles, and various beliefs, and yet there's so much similarity in each and every one of them. And what I want to talk about is why you yourself find yourself stuck and find yourself reverting back to those unhealthy habits or those unhealthy coping mechanisms that are not helping you. And I want to share just 5 most powerful things or tips on how to help you get out of that unhealthy cycle. So that is my plan for today's live podcast that I'm doing in this group, Heal the Unicorn: Emotional Healing and Spiritual Growth for Women. And if you're listening to this podcast or you're watching this podcast on a different platform and you like this type of topic or topics, and you are on the journey of healing and spiritually awakening, then check out this group and see if this is the right place for you. So let's get right into the why women get stuck and revert back to those unhealthy cycles and their coping mechanisms. As I start sharing my uncoverings as to why, and I am going to keep it to a limited number without making this video longer than it needs to, because even with just a handful of whys, this video can become really, really long. And my goal has been to keep these videos, these podcasts, as short and sweet as I can, so that way you can listen to it anytime and as many times as you need to, and it becomes much more easier and digestible content and piece of information for you. But as I'm sharing these, I want to hear from you as well. Why do you find yourself reverting back to your previous version of yourself, where you are backing you on healthy habits, backing you on healthy activities, or those coping mechanisms, those addictions for some of you that are actually not in alignment with who you're trying and working so hard in becoming. Why do you find yourself there? Why do you keep going back? So here I'll just share 5 things that are the reasons why you might find yourself reverting back to those unhealthy way of being and unhealthy ways of living. Number 1 is that this is actually your emotional comfort zone. This is your comfort space, your comfort bubble. Even though you know it's not healthy, that it still provides you a sense of security. Let me put my phone on silent. I've been waiting for a call and it just happens to come at the best time possible. It's okay. We'll play the phone tag for a little bit there, I guess. Okay, so those unhealthy habits that you keep going to, they are your comfort zones because they do provide a sense of security, a sense of knowing on how you're going to feel, what you're going to feel, and there's a lot of familiarity. This is what comfort zone is. You're familiar with it. You know what to expect from it. You know what's going to happen. You feel safe there, even though you don't actually feel safe with a lot of these unhealthy habits or patterns or coping mechanisms. And it's easier to stay in the known, in the discomfort. Even though it's your comfort zone, you still feel discomfort. It's easier to stay in that known discomfort than face the unknown of change. It's like the visualization I can share with you that comes to mind is one you're in the field full of beautiful flowers and you see everything around you. You just see a forest out of, far, far away from you. And you see everything. Everything is known, everything is familiar, and everything is in front of you. Nothing is hiding. Versus change, where now you have chosen to move away from this open field full of flowers and go into the forest that holds a lot of unknowns, that holds a lot of things that can jump on you and that can hurt you, or into a cave that is dark and scary. That is one of the reasons why you find yourself going back to those unhealthy patterns, to those unhealthy habits, because it feels comfortable. It is your emotional comfort zone. You know what emotions to expect. We're emotional beings. We live and experience everything through our feelings and our emotions. And you know what emotions you're going to experience when you do what you choose to do, whether you're choosing it consciously or unconsciously, it's still a choice, versus something new, the changes that you don't actually fully know what that's going to be like because you haven't experienced it enough to know. Second reason is fear of failure, or actually fear of success, that you are scared that you will be successful, or you're scared that you're going to fail. The fear of not succeeding, or the fear of the responsibilities that come with success, can make change feel very, very, very overwhelming. Because when you're changing, when you're taking on this new role or new lifestyle, it comes with a lot of its own expectations and responsibilities. That means that you're becoming someone different, and what's expected of you is going to be different and perhaps bigger than what you have been doing so far. Hence why you find yourself being paralyzed by your fear and being held hostage by your fear. And that comes from that inner voice that, whether you hear it consciously or you don't hear it consciously and you just feel your emotions, but it is still there. It is still reminding you of your past, of how things were and how safe it is to stay where you are. Don't venture out of this field, because here you see everything clearly and it's comfortable, but you know, after a while it gets uncomfortable as well. Also, there is quite a bit of that unresolved trauma or those emotional wounds that you might have experienced, that you're still in many ways dealing with, right? So when it comes to those unresolved traumas and emotional wounds, many of them are deeply, deeply ingrained, and unhealed emotional pain can trigger you to go to your coping mechanisms, to go to your unhealthy habits, which could be numerous of things. It could be overeating. Usually it's overdoing something, right? Maybe it's overeating. Maybe it's over exercising. Maybe it's over consumption of a substance, or watching something too much, or overdoing it on rest, where you're not being physically active or spiritual active or socially active, where you're isolating yourself. You spend too much time being, or you spend too much doing. We all have our own different unhealthy habits and unhealthy coping mechanisms. Whatever it is, taking time to identify it is going to help you to work through it and to understand what it is. Also, for some of you, might be you're still giving too much of yourself, people pleasing, or overworking. That's another one where you might refer to yourself as a workaholic, where you just go to work and you work. Another reason, as I mentioned, is those voices in your head, right? That negative self-talk, those limiting beliefs, those stories that you tell yourself of who you are and why you can't do what you're trying to do, why you need to go back to doing this because right now this is what you need. And before you know it, you can find yourself staying there for some time. And it might become harder for you to get back to your old self, to those healthier habits, to those healthier coping mechanisms. But women do often struggle with their self-worth, and they feel like they don't deserve better, which really just, in a way, forces them to go and do those things that are familiar, and more often than not, they are unhealthy cycles, unhealthy habits, unhealthy coping mechanisms. Lack of consistent support is another big one. This one is a massive one, where you feel alone and isolated without the right support system or the right accountability partners or right accountability systems. It is really, 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 really easy to go back into those old habits, especially in times of stress, and especially in times of overwhelm, especially in times of anxiety or exhaustion. That is the fifth reason why women find themselves going back to those old unhealthy habits and unhealthy coping mechanisms. It just, when the going gets tough, if you don't have the right systems, the right tools, the right people in place, it becomes almost impossible to get out of there. Because you go back to those habits, you go back to those coping mechanisms, and they in a way become your quote unquote support system, but they're not supporting you. They're draining you. They're taking your life force away from you. This is one of the biggest reasons why I do what I do, because I have lived what I'm talking about. And I have lived what I'm talking about through the numerous eyes of the women that I have coached through this process as well, and have helped them to come on the other side and find themselves and stay with the healthy habits, the healthy coping mechanism, because it is a daily choice. Conscious or unconscious, it is a choice regardless. If you want this to be the unconscious choice, where you're unconsciously choosing healthy habits, healthy coping mechanisms, healthy activities, you must rewrite your subconscious. You must rewrite your default program. Otherwise, you will unconsciously, when the unconscious taps in, which is 95% of your day, is going to be unconscious, where you're just riding on a horse with a blindfold and the horse is leading you. That's what it's like when your subconscious is running your life, when your default program is running your life. And if you want the life that you want, you got to go into the roots and rewrite those roots and prune the rotten roots that are not helping you, that are not serving you, so you can allow the new ones to grow. And the biggest determining factor in my life and the life of those women that I had worked with and continued to work with has been the support. Having the right, and the key word here is right, support systems and accountabilities in place, and accountability partners in place. When you have the right people in your corner, there's no way you can fail unless you get rid of those people from your corner, and then you are practically on your own. So now the 5 ways to help you break that cycle. And feel free to share any other ways that come to mind that you have done, that you have experienced, that have helped you to break that cycle of reverting back to your old previous self, your old previous unhealthy habits and coping mechanisms, and essentially the things that were your escapes from reality. That's how I would refer to them. When you're escaping the reality, when you're escaping your opportunity, when you're running away from your success because it just feels too much. It feels like you can't handle it and that you're not worthy of it. Feel free to share any other ways that have helped you, but I'm just going to share the 5 ways. Hey, Rebecca, how are you doing, beautiful? Rebecca says it has to be an ongoing effort forever. I would agree, and also in a way disagree. I wouldn't be a coach if I wasn't challenging the things that I'm hearing or that I'm reading. That word forever is not necessarily the truth. It might feel like that when we are in the trenches. It might feel like that when we're really healing. And yes, the healing might be a lifelong healing and a lifelong journey, but it might not be. You, just like many other women, can find yourself feeling healed. And it is really also just the best way to describe it. It's like you're releasing and letting go of everything all at once, even as it comes through little by little. You just learn from it, but not hold on to things that are not serving you. So even though it's an ongoing process, it comes to a point where it it's so easy that it doesn't feel strenuous, and a lot of it is because the roots have been pruned and the new roots started growing. And Rebecca says, yes, yeah, for sure, has to be the right people. I once had a coach that would say something insulting, say it with all, then say with all love after. Honestly, thank you for bringing that up, because this is one of the things that, and one of the reasons why I remind everyone to please do your homework. Please vet those people that you want to work with, have conversations, make sure that you're the right fit. And when you see red flags, please pay attention to those red flags. A coach should never insult you and then put a bow on top of it and say it's all in the name of love. That's not how it works. It needs to be healthy feedback, and that does not feel like a personal attack. And even though sometimes it might actually feel like a personal attack, but it might not meant to be that way, and that also might be a red flag to help you identify that that is just not the right person for you, because the same thing can be said by a different person and it would not be taken in that same way. It would not be received in that same way if it came from a person that was the right person for you. And Rebecca says, I think it does have to be an ongoing intention forever, because little by little people will revert to original programming because it's part of our DNA. Yes and no, because I mean, I don't want to go and start quoting people and studies, but there are experts who will tell you that you're not limited by your DNA, that you can rewrite your DNA. And if you can rewrite your DNA, I also know that you can rewrite your default programming. It just takes a little bit more time. And once you rewrite your default programming, that new program becomes your default program. You are not stuck with the programming that you were given in the first 7 years of your life. You can rewrite it. Can you rewrite the whole entire program? I believe everything is possible. Have I done that myself? No, I have not. Do I know or have heard of people who have? Yes, I have. But it takes, like you said, constant intention and dedication to that work, that you are spending much more time being conscious and aware. And of course, that will be a lot more exhausting, because this is why 95% of our day we are unconscious. And when you start spending more time than just the 5% being conscious of yourself, of your life, of your surroundings, you will find yourself feeling more tired and drained, because you're using a lot more of your brain power and a lot more of your energy as well. So that means a little bit more rest, and rest is not the same as sleep, and a little bit more sleep, which is not the same as rest. So figuring out how much rest you need and how much sleep you need, making sure that you're eating well, you're eating healthy, and that you're not numbing your spiritual self through the things that you consume. And the things that you consume are not just limited to food and liquids. They're also the things that you watch, or the things that you listen to, the conversations that you have, the people you surround yourself with, the air that you're breathing, the exercise that you're doing or not doing. And then Rebecca says she would time the amount of time I would talk, then let me know how long I spoke. The words that are coming to mind is controlling and narcissistic. And what was the purpose of that? Was that something that you decided yourself that you wanted done? Um, it brings up a lot of questions for me to help in understanding what was the intent, what was the purpose of that. Because if that was me and my coach did that without it being my idea, without me wanting that done, me being tracked, it would make me feel controlled and shamed that I talk too much and I share too much. And I would not be okay with that. Now, I know, Rebecca, that you are a verbal processor. I know I'm a verbal processor. And that means, as verbal processors, we talk a lot. And sometimes a lot, a lot, a lot. That it's almost like verbal diarrhea. And a lot of women that I work with, they're that same way. They're verbal processors. I don't time them. I don't see the need to time them. The only thing that I would time is just if we are meeting for 30 minutes or for 45 minutes, I would just time that and make sure that we're sticking to that time, not just for my client's sake, but for my own sake, because I want to show that I'm valuing her time just as much as I'm valuing my time. And in order for everybody else to start valuing their time, because a lot of women that I work with, they have unhealthy relationship with time, and they come to the own realization that they do not value that time, that they're giving it time away. And in many cases, it's also through this verbal processing. I recognize that within myself as well when I work with coaches. Like I said, if I had any of my coaches time me and not let me verbally express myself, I would not have that coach. I would let her go, because in the end, those are the things that start to create a whole different slew of problems and traumas. And that is not a purpose of a coach. That, unfortunately, because coaching industry is so unregulated, and unfortunately, this is one of the reasons why some people lost trust in coaching and coaches, because they have been hurt and harmed by some of these so-called expert coaches who have no prior training, no understanding what is coaching and how to do it in the right way, that they're not monitored. That is where the issue is. That's why it's important to work with certified professional coaches who are CPC certified. And I am one of them. In the group, I know Anna is another one. Anna and I, we went to IPEC coach training program together, and we graduated together. And I know that we are certified. Bethany is certified in mindfulness. If that's what you're looking for, look for coaches that are certified in the field that you need help with. For Anna and I, it's at the root, it's all about the human being and the existence and the energy levels and the mindset, which is the root of everything. So, Kimberly says, I talk a lot. There you go. You're a verbal processor. How many of you ladies talk a lot? And you have some people in your life that that are not shy to tell you that, man, you talk a lot. I mean, it's great. And sometimes maybe those are the people that you want to have in your life so they can help you in keeping more in than you release. Because when we talk, and we talk a lot, a lot, a lot, we are giving a lot of ourselves away, and we can leak out energy that way as well. And that's one thing I noticed about myself. And I learned how to keep more things private and to myself and for myself. And I learned that through having those people in my life that would tell me that I talk a lot. And luckily, they're also willing to listen. But then they're exhausted and I'm exhausted because like, oh, there was the diarrhea all over you, all over me, and in the end, like, hmm, did I say more than I needed to? What did they took away from this conversation, which perhaps was one-sided? So deciding if you're okay with who you are, or if you want to change a little bit, if you want to talk a little bit less and listen a little bit more. And if those people are helping you, great. And if not, let them go. But my point is that there's nothing wrong with you. If this is who you are and you're happy being a verbal processor and talking a lot, then continue doing that. Just find the people that are welcoming you with open arms, that are listeners. There are many people who are listeners. So, Rebecca says, my older daughter has no patience for the way I make a short story long. Well, some people, like I said, just short stories with them, and there's other people who can listen to the long story. Maybe it's her way of telling you that, because one thing I recognized with myself, with the coaches that I was working with, and going through the coach training program is that sometimes when we're telling a story, there's a lot of details that we're sharing that we think are important, but in reality, they're not. They're just fillers. And this is the feminine. The feminine wants to share and say everything, whereas the masculine is straight to the point. So maybe it's your daughter's way of letting you know that she is a little bit more masculine in that way and wants the short form of the story. Just give her the highlights of the book. You know how you can, there's like a summary of the book, how you can find a summary in the book and you can listen to the summary of the book without listening to the whole entire book, without listening to all the fillers. There are people like that. And I know part of me admires that in that people. Admires that quality and that character in people. So I have been practicing doing that more and more and more myself because that's one of the personality traits that I want within myself. And some of you might want it and others might not. You get to live your life. You get to live it once. You get to have today as the only today. Tomorrow is the only today, because tomorrow moves on to today, and you get to choose how you want to do that. And if you're happy with where you are, then absolutely keep doing it. And if you're not happy, then do the work that is necessary for you to change, grow, and evolve. Rebecca says, hey, this is me. Sometimes I wish I talked a little thing less, but I don't want to feel ashamed for being who I am. And then also before that said she has a short attention span. Yeah, like very masculine men, they have short attention span and they start to tune out their women because they talk a lot. Two-part here. Like I said, the goal in all of our life is to understand who we're being and understand who we want to be. If you truly want to talk less and get straight to the point without all the unnecessary details in your story, start by identifying what are the unnecessary details in your story and start cutting them out. And you can do that. You can do that through practice. You can practice that in your head when you're telling that story in your head, or you can practice it when you're telling a story, when you're having a conversation with someone next time. Practice sharing less of the story and just going to the meat and potatoes, so to speak. Nobody really enjoys the salad. I mean, some people enjoy the salad, but I personally prefer the meat and not so much the potatoes, especially after learning that Snickers bar, if you're eating a Snickers bar, like a chocolate bar, that you're going to have the same effect of what that sugar rush will give you as if you eat a bowl of potatoes or a bowl of rice. And it made me really start questioning, why is our diet and what we're being told, how true is all of this and how untrue it all is, and how we're all been programmed and manipulated and choosing what's right for each and every one of us and rewriting that program, which feels uncomfortable initially. But it's important to understand what kind of life we want to live, and that involves literally every single part of our life, including and not limited to eating. Okay, now, 5 powerful ways to break that cycle of going back to the unhealthy habits and unhealthy coping mechanisms. Number 1, develop self-awareness. It's important to become conscious and aware and become self-aware. Ask yourself why this matters. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. You can't change what you don't know, what you're not aware of. So it's important to start becoming more and more aware of your triggers, of your emotions, of your thoughts that lead to those unhealthy habits. And you can catch yourself in the early cycle of going back to that cycle. It's important to also understand that your emotions and triggers are stories. Your thoughts are stories. Your emotions and triggers are actually your stories and thoughts that have now been conditioned within your body, and hence why you have an emotional reaction, hence why you have a button that was pushed and now you're triggered, because you had an experience and you told yourself, you had thoughts about that experience, you explained it to yourself, you had thoughts about it, you had story over and over and over again, and it became an unconscious story, an unconscious thought within you that is now being triggered as a trigger that creates an emotional response or emotional reaction. And all of those are connected to the mind, to the mindset. You have a set of the mind, right? You have certain default programs that make up your current mindset. But just because you have that mindset does not mean you can't go and change that set. It makes me think of cards, or let's say reading cards, whatever cards that come to mind, that when this card set becomes worn out and it is no longer aligning with you, like, for example, this deck of cards, the Shaman's Dream. If I was no longer aligned with anything in this deck, or even some of the things in the deck, I can choose to take those things out, right? And it's not going to be a complete set. I can choose to take some random cards out, and not necessarily random, but the cards that really did not align with me, like, ooh, I don't like that one, and I'll put that away. It's kind of like how our mind works, where we can put those things away and we can go to a store, quote unquote, and we can decide and choose what different card we're going to put into this set, which is our mindset. It doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. Doesn't mean you're going to forget about that card. You're still going to remember. You're still going to think about it. It might still come back to you once in a while. But before you know it, because it happens so seamless that you forget about something and you don't even know when that happened, that card that you took out of that set of your mind is no longer relevant. And now you have this new one. And who's to say that this new one day is no longer going to be in alignment and you want to get rid of it as well? Our minds are not permanent, and they're not frozen in the time, in the moment. They can't be changed. All of our minds get changed and twisted and manipulated consciously, and majority of it is unconsciously. you can do the same thing for yourself. Hey Barbie, said just dropping in to say hello. Hey Barbie, how are you doing, beautiful? I hope you're taking some notes and love to hear your takeaways after. So the first one is develop self-awareness. Now, how are you going to do that? You can do that through journaling. You can do that through practicing mindfulness, becoming mindful in the moment. You can do that with working with a coach, working with a therapist, working with a psychiatrist. There's many different experts out there that can help you reflect you back as how they're seeing you, how they're hearing you, and then helping you to really see yourself and understand yourself through policing your words. That's one of the things that I enjoy doing, because that's one of the things that has been the most helpful for me. Because when I speak, when we all speak, we don't actually hear what we're saying. Because as we're speaking, our mind is speaking at the same time. So we have like two different conversations that are going through, and we're not fully hearing what we're saying. At the same time, we're not aware of how what we're saying is being absorbed by our audience, by who we're speaking with. And if we're lucky enough, we'll have people who are brave enough to tell us what they're hearing and how they're hearing it, or how perhaps maybe it's triggering them. Or in your case, Rebecca, having a daughter who speaks her mind and tells you that she has in a way, a short attention span. Say less. Get straight to the point. And yeah, so what do you do with that? You treat yourself like you would a dear friend. You can journal, you can meditate, you can become more mindful in the moment. Like I said, experts to help you on that journey. You can get accountability partners, someone who is doing the same thing or similar things. One thing that was extremely helpful for me was being part of a group coaching. When we as students were going through the same program together and experiencing it in different ways. And we would come together during the weekly calls and express ourselves and talk and connect and have our coach help us through whatever was going on. And that was incredibly, incredibly helpful in many different ways. But the biggest one, I think, was because it was also usually the biggest things. The biggest growing moments are also our scariest. And for me, the scariest was to talk openly and honestly about what I was dealing with, what I was going through in front of strangers, which actually were not strangers for too long. Because it takes a lot of courage to open up and talk openly in front of a group of women who I assumed couldn't understand, couldn't relate. But I was so wrong, because each and every one of those women understood and could relate in many or all of the things that I was dealing with and that I was going through. They just had a little bit of a different story that was causing them the same experiences. So the keys are going to be to catch yourself in an early cycle and reflect on when or why you fall back into those certain habits, into those certain, what are we calling them? Coping mechanisms. Start to understand yourself a little bit more. What's really happening in this moment? What is really triggering you? Why are you really going back to that habit? Why are you really going back to that mechanism that helped you to cope but is actually not healthy? So the second thing that you can do is practice that self-compassion. women and men as well, but women especially, since this is who I work with, this is who I speak with all the time, are often way too harsh on themselves and with themselves. They shame themselves, they blame themselves, they guilt themselves. Most of it, if not all of it, is rooted in that deeply ingrained program that can be reprogrammed and gets to be reprogrammed. And it comes through because they're such good girls that there's certain expectations, certain shoulds and shouldn'ts, or could and could nots, that also they believe that they must do it all and be perfect in everything they do. I mean, how realistic is that? It's very unrealistic. So this harsh way of bullying yourself, this is one of the biggest reasons why women go back to those unhealthy habits. But when you approach yourself with compassion, you are much more likely to create positive change. Meet yourself where you are. Allow yourself to feel that emotion, to be with that emotion, to be that emotion. Remind yourself that you are human, that you're not superhuman, but you are human, and that you're allowed to feel and experience whatever it is that you're feeling and experiencing. Learn and understand, lean into it. Learn and understand, where is this coming from? What story is coming up for you? What are the thoughts and feelings and emotions? Understand yourself. And as you start to do that and continue to do that, remind yourself of where you want to be instead, and what are you working towards, and why it's important to you. Your job is to understand yourself and re-motivate yourself in a way, or in many ways. Treat yourself like you would your best friend. Instead of criticizing yourself, instead of shaming yourself, or or shaming yourself for slipping, for going back to those old ways, remind yourself that change is a process. Healing is a process. And setbacks are very normal. They're actually expected. Now, there are some women that I had worked with that weren't as open and honest with their setbacks. And in the end, it just did them disservice, because for some reason, they felt like they were so ashamed and so embarrassed, and felt so guilty, that by sharing it, they thought that I would think of them in those same ways. Whereas in reality, I do not. I understand that this is part of the process. And it's important for me, it's important for the expert that you choose to hire to work with, to know what's really going on. That you slip back to doing that and you continue to do that and you just can't get back out. It's important, right? As a coach, it's my job to help you get out of there, but it's not my job to get you out of there. It's up to you. And I understand that, because this is a normal process of the yo-yo, where you're going to get to this person that you've been wanting to become, and because your good girl syndrome, your imposter comes through, and its job is to keep you safe, and by keeping you safe, its job is to bring you back to those previous versions of yourself, that it's going to do that. And that I know that what you want in the end is that quote unquote perfect version of yourself that you continue to work towards. That you need to do enough of this yo-yoing until you've had enough, and you're good, and you do not go back to that version of yourself, but you go back to a previous version of yourself that is not as unhealthy as the previous version of yourself, but is still unhealthy. Because what happens is that as you continue this path of self-mastery and reaching that quote unquote, and I say quote unquote because it's still an illusion, but this perfect version of yourself, that it continues to evolve and become a different version or vision of what perfect means to you. That certain things that were healthy one day might not be healthy, or certain things that were unhealthy become in a way healthy, and it's all in the mind of how you saw it. One example that comes to mind is exercise. That some women saw or see exercise as unhealthy, as it was doing more damage than good, and they stopped exercising or stopped exercising in that way, and they changed it and start exercising in a different way, while other women turned to exercise and it became their unhealthy habit because they would exercise way too much and it was actually causing them physical harm. So something healthy can also become unhealthy. That just becomes a little too much. Right? Too much of a good thing can also be bad. And too much of a bad thing is going to be bad. Okay. So that was number 2. Number 3 will be challenging those limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs about yourself, such as I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, or I'm not doing enough, will keep you stuck in those patterns that reinforce those self-beliefs. And your job is to break free from them. And the way that you're going to break free from them is to challenge them and reframe them. Challenge them by, how true is that? How true is that really? Am I really unworthy? Can I see or think of any areas of my life where I am worthy? Start listening. What you're doing in that process is you're challenging those beliefs and you're also reframing them in the process. One thing I don't recommend doing is just changing your thoughts or just changing your words. Like, for example, if you have a thought that pops in, or this limiting belief that I'm not good enough, I'm not doing enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, not to jump to, no, I am worthy. No, I am good enough. No, I am doing enough. That is not dealing with the actual trigger, with the actual story that is coming through. Taking a moment to understand, okay, why am I thinking or believing that I'm not good enough right now? Why do I think or believe that I'm not doing enough or am enough right now? List those things. Write them down. See your beliefs for what they are. Some of them might tell you why you think you're not. They might be realistic. Most of them will not be realistic. But you're seeing them for what they are. And in that process, you're also understanding yourself. And in that process, you can also end up reframing yourself because you're questioning, really? Is this really why I think I'm unworthy? Because I didn't clean the kitchen this morning when last night I said I was going to clean it? Is it really that important that I didn't clean the kitchen? Is it really the end of the day? Or end of the day, the end of the world? Can I not do it later? Does it need to be done first thing in the morning? Or even today? What's wrong with taking a day off? Physical, mental, and emotional day off to just be in process. And if today was my last day, would dishes really matter? No. That doesn't mean you keep your kitchen as a mess. It just will allow you to work through the stories that are being triggered within you emotionally. So what you can do is you can identify the limiting belief that you're holding on in the ways that I have just described, then write down 3 pieces of evidence that prove it to be wrong, as we just talked about. For example, if you believe you always fail, oh, I always fail, I never complete anything, then list the times when you actually succeeded and completed something despite the obstacles, despite what got in the way. Remind yourself of who you truly are. So the fourth way of how you can not go back to those unhealthy habits and patterns and coping mechanisms is create new healthy rituals and habits. The ones that feel right, the ones that align with you. Try on different things and see what feels right for you. And if you no longer like it, try a different one, try a different one. Unhealthy habits need to be replaced. They need to be replaced. It's like when someone quits smoking, that smoking needs to be replaced with something else that gives similar or even a better rush than smoking itself did. You cannot just remove the unhealthy habit or unhealthy coping mechanism. It needs to be replaced. You cannot just remove and go cold turkey, because you will get right back there. By creating new positive rituals that support you and support your well-being, you give yourself new coping mechanisms, new routines, and new habits. But they need to be exciting enough. Because if they're not, you can find yourself back where you started, if not worse. And the last, no, let me see. So what you can do to help you is not dive right into the deep end and create a whole entire plan for the day or for the weeks of all these healthy things that you're going to do. You want to start integrating them little by little, one small thing at a time, one small action at a time. For example, with smoking, the reason why people smoke is really just think about the act of smoking itself. It's you breathing in, inhaling deeply, and exhaling. So replacing it with deep breathing practices around the same times as you would go for a smoke. And you would just breathe in deeply and out, in and out, as many times as you need until you feel that relaxation come over you, come over your body, mind, soul, and spirit. That helps you to feel like yourself, like a human. So if it's a morning meditation, you start with that gently. Don't jump and do a whole hour of meditation, because if you weren't doing that before and now you're carving out an hour, you're setting yourself up for failure, that it will feel like you're going to be challenging your time story on top of that, right? Or maybe there's going to be a journal or a gratitude journal or a walk. Whether it's a walk in the park or walk the dog or walk on your treadmill, start slow. If you are, for example, with me right now, my job is mostly sedentary, as you see. Every time I'm sitting down and I do these videos for quite a period of time. Then I have coaching calls, then I have recording times, then I have creative times. So a lot of the time that I'm spending it sitting down. So one of my goals is to have 10,000 steps a day. Now, when we went on vacation in Disney World, we got more than 10,000 steps a day. So, and I wasn't prepared for that. But that got me started to continue taking those 10,000 steps a day, because on average we had about 20,000 steps a day. So now I am more than capable of doing 10 steps a day. And I have a treadmill on the other side of the wall, and I go on that treadmill every day for just a little bit. My goal is to get to the 10,000 steps a day. Then I also have a dog, and I also walking in the house. But I do find myself, because walking in Disney World is a whole entire different experience. And being back in my home, there are other habits that I'm used to and other coping mechanisms that I'm used to, and none of them involve the treadmill. So now I find and carve out the time every single day to go on that treadmill and get my steps in. And the motivation needs to be important, needs to be exciting enough. And because I live my life with the end in mind, it becomes much easier to get on that treadmill when I ask myself, would I regret getting on a treadmill 5 months from now? In an instant, no. I would not regret getting on a treadmill. Would I regret not getting on a treadmill? Yes, I would. So who do I want to be 5 months from now? How would I want to feel 5 months from now? How do I want to look 5 months from now? And I remind myself of those things. I want to feel healthy. I want to feel alive. I want to feel energized. I want to look fit. I want to feel fit. I want to be running in a treadmill and not just walking. So it just becomes like a no-brainer. I'm coaching myself through my own blogs that come up for the stories of healthful wellness that I had created in my mind, where in order for me to be healthy and fit, I need to spend hours and hours and hours at the gym, or hours and hours and hours on exercise equipment. And how true is that? It's not. I don't have to do that. Walking is one of the healthiest activities. So by challenging myself and working through my own blocks and my own limiting beliefs and my own stories, just like you, I have them. I'm a human being. I work through it and I choose those healthy coping mechanisms, those healthy habits versus unhealthy. Kimberly says, I love walking. I'm glad you love walking. I love walking as well, but part of me didn't enjoy walking because my mind was telling me it's strenuous. It's gonna tire me out. It's gonna make me sweat, and I don't want to do that. But I'm like, why not? Why would I not want to do that? So getting back into that walking, and then Rebecca said, I've definitely been building a new muscle, stopping and deciphering instead of reacting. I love that. It's a matter of how bad I want it that will determine my effort. That's true. And that's why it's important to, what I refer to as coach ourselves, to help us see things much more clearly and not just be stuck in this present moment and just see a little bit, just today, right? But going further, 5 months, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, who do I want to be? And what's involved in me becoming that person? Oh, this is, and this is, okay. Am I willing to sacrifice this comfort for that discomfort? And how long is going to be a discomfort for? Not for that long, because I'm just rewiring my brain by telling myself, understanding my current story and reframing it and rewiring it into the one that I actually want to have. Rebrainwashing myself. And that is what I help you do through these videos, through the coaching that we do together as well. So because before you know, it's going to become second nature, basically is what I'm saying. And number 5, the one that I've been talking about, is seeking support and accountability. Going at it alone is really tough. And it's not fun. It's not fun doing what we're doing alone. Absolutely not. And it's really tough without accountability. When you get that support, you yourself feel accountable and someone else feels some sense of responsibility to keeping you accountable to you doing those things that you do. No one can force you, and you can always change your mind. I see this all the time in the coachings that I do with women. They decide on these three main goals, and then as they are going through the coaching program with me, they realize that those are not all the goals that they actually want. So some of these goals change and they grow and they evolve, or in one way or another, they achieve that goal and it's replaced with another one. We're not stuck with the cards we're dealt with. Absolutely not. And the fact that you believe you're stuck with the cards you're dealt with will become your reality. And you will live a life with those cards that you have been dealt with. The key is the mindset. It's your belief systems. If you believe something to be true, it will be true. If you believe you're tired, you will be tired. If you believe you're energized, you will be energized. But it takes effort to change those beliefs, because beliefs is not just sheer thought alone. It's your emotional state. Rebecca says, I was a runner my whole life until my 40s, had to learn leeways to love to get fit, new ways to love and get fit. And that's the other part. Some of us were, like Rebecca said, were runners and we loved running and enjoyed running. I used to love rollerblading. Now, not so much. Mostly, to be quite honest, because I feel worn out really quickly from rollerblading. But when I was young, I would rollerblade all day, every day, and I had an enormous amount of energy. Now, can I get back to that version of myself? Not fully, because the body's not the same, but I can get pretty damn close to it. And that's what I want. I want to feel alive, as I like to refer to it, energized. And then running is hard on the joints now. And that is true as well. Runners have their own health issues as well, because running itself is a pretty big impact on the feet, on the knees, and even on the hips and the back and the spine as well. Kimberly says, walking to get my laundry if I lose you. All. Hey, walking, talking about walking. Okay, so seek that accountability, support, and a partner. It's easy. It really is easy to revert back to your old patterns, but it's not as easy when you have that help and support, especially if you are open and honest with the person that is helping and supporting you through your growth period that you're going through. And having someone in your corner who supports your growth helps you to stay committed, motivated, and even inspired. And consistent. Consistency is key. Now, what you can do, the actions that you can take, is join a supportive community like this group, Heal the Unicorn, Emotional Healing and Spiritual Growth for Women. Hire a coach, hire a therapist, psychiatrist. Join, whether you hire a coach one-on-one or hire a coach with group coaching. Maybe there's a program you can join and be a part of. Find an accountability partner who understands your journey and who is supportive on your journey and is willing to help you on your journey as well. Share your goals with them and check in regularly. Check-ins are important. They really are. They help the other person to see your growth, and they help you to see your growth as well. Your ups and downs as well are seen through all this. So I can't think of anything else to share. Thank you, all of you beautiful ladies who were on here with me live, who hopped on just to even say hey. And I'm looking forward to hearing what was your biggest takeaway from today. What did you learn about yourself today? And what are you going to do with what you learned about yourself today? We are always learning something new. And if you're not learning something new, you are not growing. And this is one of the reasons why you might find yourself feeling stuck and going back to your old patterns, your old ways, your old habits. But if you spend time learning something new every single day, intentionally, because you're also going to learn some things unintentionally, but if you choose what you're learning, your path and your purpose will become much more clearly and evident to you. And you will start to regain that sense of fulfillment as you once did. So that is all. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you very much to each and every one of you that was on here live, as I already said, and that will be rewatching. Hello to all the silent watchers. I hear you, I see you. And I welcome you to reach out to me if you are ready to do that inner work, to break free from the mental prison that you find yourself in and build a life and a business or a career that you love, that you are obsessed with, that you cannot wait to wake up to every single day. Other than that, we'll see each other next Thursday for another one of these weekly live Get Your Shit Together weekly live guidance trainings that I put out here live in the group at 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time. Or we'll see each other on Monday for a live card reading once again in this group at 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time. Have an amazing the rest of your day and your weekend until we see each other next time. Bye, everybody.